y'all, it's Luigi. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do another build a team with me video, this time focusing on series 10. What Pokemon are going to be big in the meta and what Pokemon you can use to best counter those big meta Pokemon. So if you want to find out about any of that stuff, keep watching. Okay, so as usual, we are back here in Pokemon Showdown so that I can best show you how I've set up all of the Pokemon on my Series 10 team. First up is Calyrex Shadow. Calyrex Shadow is the Pokemon that I've chosen to be my one restricted Pokemon for Series 10. And the reason I've done that is because, honestly, Calyrex Shadow is the best counter to Calyrex Shadow. Not only that, when you pair Shadow Rider with a Focus Sash, it becomes an even better counter. Because Calyrex Shadow is 4 times weak to both Dark and Ghost type moves, that Focus Sash really ensures that you can survive after taking a hit that would normally kill Calyrex Shadow. So for example, just one Sucker Punch from Urshifu Dark is enough to kill Shadow Calyrex. And as we all know, Sucker Punch is a priority move, so there's really no way for Shadow Calyrex to kill that Urshifu on its own without a Focus Sash to survive a Sucker Punch. Of course, we've got a better way to deal with Dark Urshifu coming up, so hold on. So this is a fairly standard Shadow Calyrex set. Of course, we've got Focus Sash for survivability, as I talked about. The ability as one is the only ability you can have for Shadow Calyrex, and then the moves are Protect, which is vital with such a frail Pokemon, Astral Barrage, Expanding Force, and Giga Drain. So Astral Barrage and Expanding Force are both spread moves. Expanding Force is actually only a spread move on Psychic Terrain, but there's a lot of that running around since Fake Out is such a big deal in the Series 10 meta right now. Enough so that we don't actually have to bring our own Psychic Terrain. I find that I come across Psychic Terrain fairly often, and it helps me out by boosting my Expanding Force and allowing it to become a spread move without me having to waste a slot in my team on Indeedee. And then finally, Giga Drain. Once you've boosted the special attack of Shadow Calyrex enough through the Grim Neigh ability, then Giga Drain will actually do significant damage, and if your Calyrex Shadow has taken a small enough amount of damage that you can heal it back up to full health, you can actually reuse your Focus Sash again and kind of regain it so that it'll work again on another hit later. And then finally, the stats are fairly simple for Calyrex Shadow. We want to be strong, we want to be fast. This isn't a bulky Pokemon, so we're not going to waste any of our EVs on bulk. We're going to go with max special attack, max speed, those extra 4 EVs and HP. And then we're going to go with a timid nature instead of a modest, specifically in the Calyrex Shadow Mirror. We need to be able to, at the very least, speed tie those opposing Calyrexes. Next Pokemon up is, I know we just talked about how Calyrex Shadow has those 2 really powerful spread moves in Astral Barrage and Expanding Force. We need some way to deal with the Calyrex Shadow Mirror, where the opposing Calyrex Shadow is going to be hitting us with Astral Barrage, and we're going to try to be hitting them with Astral Barrage. So what we've done is we've brought in Toxipex. Toxipex is kind of a sleeper Pokemon. It's not really used very often in doubles. It's very big in singles. It's usually a Toxic Stall type Pokemon, but we're going to use it a little bit differently here. We're using it for Wide Guard. So when we lead Calyrex Shadow and Toxipex, not only can we use Wide Guard to protect us from opposing spread moves like Kyogre's Water Spout or other Calyrex Shadows, but we can also use Baneful Bunker to get a poison off on the opposing Pokemon. Because a lot of teams lead Fake Out. You can't fake out a Ghost type Pokemon like Calyrex Shadow, so who are you going to fake out turn 1? Probably Toxipex. If we go ahead and Baneful Bunker turn 1 on Toxipex, then that opposing Pokemon who tries to fake us out will automatically be poisoned. So you might notice that we've got the item Mental Herb here on Toxipex instead of something like Black Sludge or Leftovers or a Berry, for example. The reason we've done that is because a lot of times you'll see a Kyogre Tornadus lead. So Kyogre sets up Rain for Tornadus, Tornadus uses Tailwind, and then Kyogre just Water Spouts forever, right? Well, what we can do is we've got Wide Guard on Toxipex, so that Kyogre's not going to hit us with Water Spout, that's for sure. So what is Tornadus going to do once it realizes that we have Wide Guard and its Kyogre can't do anything? It's going to try to taunt the Toxipex so that it can't use Wide Guard. So with the Mental Herb, we can ensure we get one more turn of that Wide Guard protection from Kyogre. And then finally, we've got Iron Defense to help improve survivability on Toxipex, as well as Scald. Now, the reason we have Scald is because Mental Herb is an item that only works once. So once it's gone, we do need a move to keep using on Toxipex that's not going to be taunted. And then, since survivability is so important on Toxipex, we've got max HP, max special defense here. We've gone for a calm nature to further boost special defense. And the reason for that is because Toxipex is already slightly more defensively bulky just in the base stats. And also, we have iron defense on our Toxipex. So iron defense will raise our defense by 2, essentially doubling it. So I've chosen to put our EVs in special defense instead to make us a little more across the board survivable. And our second support Pokemon here is Whimsicott. As we all know, speed control is going to be very important in Series 10, and this is mostly because the fact that you can't Dynamax means that max Airstream will no longer be a factor. So Tailwind is going to be very important. So we've got our Whimsicott, and I've changed it up a little bit from what I've done in the past with this Pokemon. Usually I run Eject Button Switcheroo Whimsicott. It's really great because you can make sure your opponent does not get a chance to Dynamax. Like, their Dynamax goes away completely if you use it right. So since Dynamax isn't really a factor in Series 10, what we've decided to do is replace the Eject button on Whimsicott with an Aqua Berry. I don't think that flying type moves are going to be nearly as big in Series 10 because there's no Dynamax. So I think the bigger threat to Whimsicott is going to be fire type moves instead of flying. That's why I've gone for an Aqua Berry instead of a Cobra Berry. And then the moves, of course, are Tailwind, Taunt, so that you can taunt opposing slower prankster Pokemon. Moonblast in case you get taunted, and then Charm will harshly lower opponent's attack stats. So that's -2 stages, basically cutting it in half. And that's just a really good way to kind of neuter opposing physical attackers before they can get a lot of damage in on you. And then the EVs are the same as usual for this Pokemon. We're really not trying to do damage with the Whimsicott, so if we can survive even one hit, that's great for us. So of course we're going with max speed, timid nature, because we want to make sure we're as fast as possible, because that Whimsicott mirror, at the very least, you get a speed tie. And then instead of doing 252 EVs on special attack, we've gone with 252 EVs in HP. And again, that's so that if we can even just survive one hit on this Whimsicott, it'll be super helpful to have it on the field for an extra turn. Next up is my boy, Galerion Darmanatan. We all love Galerion Darmanatan. It hits like a truck. I've seen it OHKO Dynamax Pokemon. It's great. I made a slight change for this Pokemon for Series 10. And the reason for that is, again, speed control is more important than ever. And we no longer have to deal with the added bulk of Dynamax Pokemon. So because of that, instead of going for a choice band on Galerion Darmanatan, I've chosen to do a choice scarf instead. It means the Darmanatan does not hit quite as hard as it did when it's choice banded, but the added speed control is super important, especially because I'm finding that I'm not really bringing Whimsicott to a lot of games. I typically don't have Tailwind behind me. So it's better that Darmanatan can outspeed on its own. And 2, Darmanatan doesn't have to OHKO Dynamax Pokemon anymore. It doesn't have to hit as hard, so it's better to trade in a little bit of that attacking power for the extra speed. The moves here are the same as usual: Icicle Crash, Brick Break, Flare Blitz, and U-Turn. And then, of course, the stats, as usual: 252 speed, 252 attack, Jolly Nature. Next up is our Kyogre Killer. This is Rillaboom. So I've gone with an Assault Vest Rillaboom so that we can survive just an extra little bit of hits, just be that extra little bit bulky. Of course, the ability is Grassy Surge so that our Grassy Glide becomes +1 priority move. But the thing about Rillaboom, okay, I'm going to tell you a secret. Rillaboom is an Incineroar killer. Rillaboom is the Incineroar counter. The reason for that is because it's faster than Incineroar and a fake out user. So you see Incineroar a lot. They're on basically every team. They're all over the place. And the reason Incineroar is everywhere because it's very bulky, it's a great fake out user, it's got the Intimidate, you can cycle it out with Parting Shot, all that is great. What if I told you you could fake out the fake out before it fakes you out? You can with Rillaboom. So the moves on Rillaboom here: Fake Out, of course; Grassy Glide, of course; Knockoff is great because, again, once you faked out Incineroar, what else can you do? Let's knock off that berry that Incineroar always carries and makes it so difficult to kill. And finally, High Horsepower, which is super effective against Incineroar and not nerfed by grassy terrain the way Earthquake is. Earthquake, Bulldoze, and Magnitude all get their damage cut in half on grassy terrain, but other ground type moves do not have that happen to them. So the EV spread on Rillaboom is just a little bit different from what you might be expecting. We haven't maxed out any one particular stat, and I'll tell you the reason we picked these stats in particular. We went with the speed of 124 at level 50. Why did we do that? Because Incineroar at level 50 maxes out at 123. We went with 196 EVs in attack and also the adamant nature. The reason we did that is because a max HP Kyogre will be OHKO'd by a Grassy Glide with these EVs exactly. And then finally, we put everything else into defense, and the reason for that was because we have an Assault Vest. So I'm trying to kind of spread out our bulk a little bit more between special defense and regular defense, just to kind of keep Rillaboom alive as long as possible. And finally, the last Pokemon we've got on the team, this right here is our Urshifu Dark Killer. We can expect Dark Urshifu all over the place in Series 10. Calyrex Shadow Rider is going to be a good Pokemon. What's the best counter to Calyrex Shadow Rider? Dark Urshifu. What's the best counter to Dark Urshifu? A Fairy type. But Urshifu packs Sucker Punch. It can kill your Shadow Calyrex before you get a chance to hit it with a Fairy type move. What are you going to do? Let me introduce you to Triage. Triage is Comfey's ability, which gives all of this Pokemon's healing moves a +3 priority. That means moves like Draining Kiss, Giga Drain, Floral Healing. All 3 of those moves have a +3 priority on Comfey. So, this is not the Comfey you may be used to seeing. Usually, they're a little bit more bulky. They don't really have any offensive pressure other than maybe to pick off Focus Sash users. And they're really just there to proc Weakness Policy. Well, we know Weakness Policy is not going to be that great in Series 10 because we don't have access to the added bulk that Dynamax gives us. So what if instead of a support Comfey that's just there to proc Weakness Policy, we instead build a hyper offense Comfey? So we've done that. I've put Life Orb as the item on Comfey. Triage is the ability, of course. Floral Healing means that we can have a pseudo support role. If we have a Pokemon that's kind of lower on health that needs to be topped up, Comfey can take care of that because it is frankly not the strongest Pokemon on the team unless we're looking at something that's weak to Fairy or Grass type. An extra bonus is that on grassy terrain, Floral Healing will heal the target by 2/3 of its max HP, not only by 50%. So there's a lot of synergy there between Rillaboom and Comfey, where Rillaboom can kind of have some more offensive pressure than Comfey can because it's got access to more coverage moves. And then Comfey can keep Rillaboom healed up because the grassy terrain boosts its healing power. After that, we've got the 2 offensive moves. So Draining Kiss is a Fairy type move. It's super low power. It's only 50 base power. But because Dark Urshifu is 4 times weak to Fairy, it goes down. It goes down to a Draining Kiss. And then Giga Drain is a little bit stronger. It's a 75 base power, but it also doesn't have Stab. So because Comfey is not a grass type, it doesn't get access to Stab on Giga Drain, which is a big shame, but it can still be helpful against Pokemon like Kyogre, Tapu Fini. It's not going to OHKO these Pokemon by any means, but it can help keep Comfey alive because Draining Kiss does heal Comfey, same thing as Giga Drain, but they can also help with the chip damage, the whittling down. Plus, the bonus is Comfey is also faster than most Incineroars, so you're really not going to get faked out on Comfey if you're going for a Draining Kiss or a Giga Drain. And then lastly, if we find that we need some more survivability from a special attacker, or we find that Comfey needs a little bit more offensive pressure, we can go for a couple Calm Minds if we feel safe enough that they're not going to be attacking Comfey. And then lastly, we've got a little bit of an interesting EV spread here as well. So I've gone for a very specific EV spread. So you'll notice here we have a speed of 125 on Comfey. That was purposeful too. So we know that Incineroar maxes out at 123 at level 50. And so a lot of Rillabooms that want to fake out Incineroars will probably put just enough speed EVs in to outspeed Incineroar. So Comfey, we're going to put enough EVs in to outspeed those Rillabooms by going to 125 instead of 124. Of course, we're maxing out our special attack. We're going for a modest nature because we really do want this to be more of an offensive Comfey. Okay, just a slight change on the EVs there. I don't know if you noticed. I've adjusted this a little bit. The reason we've gone for 180 EVs in HP is because Life Orb takes 1/10 of your maximum HP rounded down every turn in recoil damage. So we want the most HP possible for the amount of recoil damage we're taking from Life Orb. And so at this point, it would be 149, right? Because 1/10 of 149 would be 14.9. Rounded down, that's only 14 points of HP. If we put even just enough EVs in there to get to 150 for HP, now we're taking 15 HP every single turn. So that's just a small optimization there. I've dumped the rest into defense and special defense, mostly in defense, and the reason for that is because we can use Calm Mind to boost our special defense if need be. So that was just a quick overview of my thought process when building this team and the best way to use it to counter some of the common meta Pokemon. Now we're going to play just a few games so I can kind of show you the team in action. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let you just watch and we come off the screen so you can just focus on the games. I'll put some commentary up on the screen as it goes, just a quick reminder of what's happening and what maybe my thought process is and a few interesting points, and enjoy.